Hello, everyone.
And we are live.
Yes. Welcome to Force of Light Entertainment. You guys know me. I'm your host. Let's see, since it's a podcast episode tonight, we'll be uploading this on podcast at least. Let me go ahead and I will be Michelle the Magnificent again. So
I like it. Very nice.
And Natalie.
I'll be Natalie the Red as per usual.
Yeah, Natalie's always Natalie the Red. But yes, welcome to everyone that's already in the chat. Also, thank you to everyone who will eventually be watching this and or listening later on podcast. But yeah, we will go ahead. Let me go ahead and kind of see. Hello to everyone. Hello to Chuck, Raymond, Marcos. Let's see. The Wake Down, Josh. We've got several of you. Tim Possible, Mikey, Brett, Kaylee, Rick, Dreaming of Tabitha, Cher Bear, all of you guys. Hello, Raymond. Hello,
welcome
everyone.
Welcome to the chat.
Yes, welcome to everyone. Well, tonight we're going to do our first watch a little bit differently because here's the plan. For the first 30 minutes, we're going to do our normal first watch, kind of just telling you our thoughts
through,
yes, of this movie. But then for the last 30 minutes, we are bringing on a guest, Gary from Minefield Pop Culture, and he is a massive fan of this movie. So we're going to have someone, we'll talk to him about this movie and get his thoughts on it.
He sounds like a bit of an expert from what Michelle told me. And
he does.
We only want the best for our viewers.
Yes, we do.
So we wanted to give you somebody really committed to this movie.
Yes, we did. We definitely did. But yeah, so we'll get started. I was making sure we had our moderator. Marcos he's already in charge there in the moderation.
Marcos.
But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll kind of talk about we'll give our initial thoughts, what we didn't like about this movie. And this is going to be an interesting first watch discussion. Because one thing that I will say about these is it's always interesting to watch a movie like this movie that has so much nostalgia for certain people that were raised with it, maybe watch in the theater. So to watch it as an adult for the first time, it's kind of like, how does it affect you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's different.
Absolutely.
I've actually wondered that. I've introduced some people to the Star Wars original trilogy, and I've wondered, will they like it on the way I like it? Because I was raised with it.
I think it's sometimes like with movies, and I think you guys will know what I'm saying. It's kind of like the time in your life you see something probably sometimes has something to do with like the relationship you have with it. Or even into adulthood or whatever.
Or even sometimes like, say, like watching it for the first time, what mood were you in? Right, and were you in the mood? Did your mood meet the movie?
If you were watching a comedy you love, were you in a funny mood when you watched it for the first time?
Yeah, stuff like that. But thank you so much, Roger, for the $1.99 super sticker. We appreciate that.
And I want to say thank you for the Happy Mother's Day things. I saw if you're saying it to me or just saying it in general, either way. But thank you. And I want to wish a happy Mother's Day to all the awesome moms out there.
Yes, happy Mother's Day to any one of you that is a mother that is watching, listening. We say yay to the mothers. Yeah, happy Mother's Day. And thank you for Butt Crack Media for the 99
Thank you.
Super chat. We appreciate it. So we will give you our initial thoughts, and you guys are going to have to be patient with us tonight because this is about to be kind of a bipolar discussion on this movie. Okay, so initial thoughts. I feel like we're pretty much on the same page here, and we're not always on the same page, actually, believe it or not. Initial thoughts. I was not a fan of this movie, and I know, chat, you're gonna have to be patient.
Like heads are about to explode.
Heads are about to explode, but I was not loving this movie, like at all. I didn't enjoy how dark it was, how rainy it was.
I feel the hate right now.
I felt like some of the characters were just kind of crazy, and the first time watching, I didn't understand why they were crazy. It just felt like there was a lot of weirdness that I didn't understand.
Yes.
Hey to Ash.
Hello, Ash.
But yeah, that was kind of my first experience. I looked over at Natalie after we watched this the first time, and I said, this might get a half hoot. Like that's where this is to me right now. So we're initial thoughts. And again, this is about to be bipolar.
Michelle's like, we're not going to be hard on it. We'll go.
This is about to be a bipolar expression. It's going to have a positive climb, guys. So just bear with me. So Natalie, what were your initial thoughts?
In the words of Miley Cyrus, it's the climb with this one.
Okay, so what were your initial thoughts? Natalie's like, I'm not bold enough to say what I actually felt, which was stronger than Michelle.
Okay. A lot of times watching this movie, and I really paid close attention. I think I paid more attention than you did, to be honest. But
I got a little bored at the end.
Yeah, I didn't know. Well, I had the feeling of I don't know what's going on a lot of this movie.
I did too.
And I don't know why it's going on. I don't know why I'm supposed to care.
Yes.
And I don't really feel attached to Harrison Ford's character very much. And
I was struggling to find attachment.
And then there was the crazy demon antagonist, protagonist, depending on how you want to look at it, based on your the moral framework from which you view this film.
I think that was my thing too. In fact, it reminded me kind of, and I actually do like this quite a bit more than Tenet. Okay, I will put that, but it kind of reminded me of Tenet, where I was like, but why? But who? Not that I don't listen.
How? When? Where?
I can break down the basic premise of the movie. That's not what I'm saying when I'm saying, but why? It's kind of me struggling to connect with any of these characters necessarily upon a first watch. And then that's when I ask the question, but why? It's like, why do I care if I don't feel connection? That's what I'm trying to say. But we're going to get more positive. Remember, we're bringing a super fan on a little bit later to this one. But thank you so much, Stephen, for the $9.99 super chat.
Thank you very much.
Loving these reviews. I rewatched today to have it fresh in my mind. I have the 30th anniversary Blu-ray box set and every cut of the film. Which version did you watch? Love this movie. We watch, I believe it's the final cut. It is on HBO Max. And that's another thing. This movie has like 7 cuts.
I was going to say, I've heard there's like so many, like it's kind of a joke, like how many cuts of this movie there are.
There's a lot of cuts to this movie, guys. I've never seen anything quite like this.
And that will add me, not add me? I don't know what I'm saying, but that kind of reminds me, Michelle was telling me, I guess, when we were kind of a few minutes into it, that originally Harrison Ford narrated over it. I think, and then I heard today, I think listening about it, that was on like the second or third one that they removed it.
No. So that the narration was in the theatrical release.
Oh, okay. So it was in
because
theaters.
They felt the studio forced Ridley Scott to do it because they thought that it would help the audience understand more.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I also can see, I've seen people say they prefer the cut we watch, and I could see if you've watched it a couple times not preferring the narration.
Right. And so, well, and let me just ask you in the chat that have seen kind of both versions, did you prefer the narration? Did you feel like it made it easier for you to understand watching it the first time? So, just give us your thoughts in the chat. We'll check it out.
Yeah. Well, here's what I want to say. Okay. So I was not a fan upon, and I already see Gary's backstage. We'll be bringing our buddy Gary out in just a couple minutes. I was not a fan the first, like after we got off, but it was the type of movie that makes you think. And I can say this, 24 hours after watching it, my mind continued thinking about it. It was one of those type movies, and it's already moved up in my mind of like how I view it as a movie. Because even though I was kind of feeling that way watching it the first time, it's definitely the type movie that I can tell you would enjoy immensely more upon a second viewing, because you're going to pick up so much more that's going on in this movie. And then also, I think some of the themes would come alive a little more upon a second viewing. But it's a movie that makes you think. And like I said, as I thought about it and thought about some of the things that it is kind of trying to get across in a sci-fi way, I appreciate this movie. So within 24 hours, I went from not really liking the experience.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean.
To at least having some level of, I appreciate this movie from a cinema movie point of view.
And I do get, like, I was listening to somebody talk about it today, and they were saying just like how visually stunning.
Especially for 1982.
Yeah. Yes. And kind of like, before like the major change in movies, like that was probably the best one ever done. And it was like, and when he said that, I'm like, I can see that.
Yes.
Like looking back on it.
Well, and too, this movie has that kind of cyberpunk feel. And it was, I'd say for 1982, just so fascinating
almost
to see this world.
Like a believable, realistic, way in the future. Well, I guess it was 2019.
Yeah. Had they made this 2020, it would have been believable. We're like, yep, 2020 sucked.
Right. But for 1982, I mean, it was going all out of what 2019 would be like.
It was cool. And
Ataris would still be in.
Yeah, and it's
People
cool.
would still be drinking Zima.
And I will have to say this. 1980s Harrison Ford is the best Harrison Ford.
True that.
So it has that going for it. Let's see. Things that I liked. Again, I appreciate really the themes, the story, the actual thing that they're trying to get across is kind of the value of life, if you actually get that. And, it is interesting because Harrison Ford's character is like just a straight blooded assassin, basically, of these robots. And it's one of the robots, the one he falls for. Rachel, is her name Rachel?
Rachel, yeah.
The one he falls for, she saves his life, even though he's just been tasked with killing hers. And then,
can I just say
what?
Rachel, also known as AKA Roy Finkel from Ace.
So is that the same woman? Did you look it up?
I did.
Okay, so you were right.
From Ace Ventura.
Okay, yeah. She's really good in that movie too. But in a comedic way, where here she has to be so serious.
Very serious.
Yes.
Almost robotic.
And I think that was some of it too. This movie's very serious.
It is.
Like there is almost zero humor in this movie. And so you're kind of in this dark world that's very serious. But then again, as I said, you appreciate it more as you think about the things. Because even the guy, basically the dude, the main villain, if you want to call him a villain, I don't know. Basically he just wanted to have life more and like have longer life.
Oh yeah,
and
I was gonna say
he saves Harrison Ford at the end when he was trying to kill him and had killed all of his robot friends. So it truly is a movie about life and kind of the purpose.
Right, like it goes deeper than it seems like at the surface.
And
I guess I wasn't even expecting that.
And his speech at the end in the rain, it's I'd have to go back and listen to it, but I think if I went back, I'd really appreciate it because it's talking about moments in life and like enjoying, I think, moments, the small moments that add up in life.
There was something like kind of beautiful in his speech, like when I went back and watched a clip of it, something about he was making a comparison, and then he says like basically the moments. They're gone.
Like the rain falling off my face,
like my tears in the rain.
Yes,
and
tears
just the way
in the
he
rain.
delivers it was really cool.
Yes,
but I don't know. I just thought that was kind of a cool line.
So see, it's one of these movies that did I like when I first watched it? No, I did not. But thinking about it, it's a movie that made me think about it the entire next day.
Which is usually a sign of a good movie in my experience.
It is. And so it's one of these that I think you just have to kind of chew upon. And then if I watched a second time, I think I would appreciate what he went for. I was also too, maybe you too. Now I knew this was not some like lot of action movie. Someone already told me that. So I was prepared for a slow burn type of movie. But I still think I wasn't quite ready for what I got.
Yeah.
And so I think now
she wasn't ready.
So I think now if I saw it again, I would appreciate the nuance of what's actually being told in this story.
And that it does go deeper.
It does. So there's a lot to appreciate. Now it is interesting. When we were both watching in today's world, the love scene between Harrison Ford, what's his name? Deckard? No, what's his name?
Deckard is his last name.
Between him and Rachel.
It's very uncomfortable.
It was. And there's ways you could look at it. You could look at it kind of like she's a robot because she figures out, at this point she knows she is the robot.
Yeah.
Why am I not calling it? What are they called? Why am I not?
Oh gosh, yeah, I know it. I watched it today to be sure. It's the replicas.
Replicas. Yes, replicas. And anyways, you could look at it like she doesn't know how to express herself and he kind of calls her on it and that's why she stays. Or, could get a little darker.
Take it however you want to.
As far as how you want to look at that love scene. And that's what, as soon as we'll bring Gary out, I've got so many questions for Gary as far as this movie. What were the things you did not like? We'll kind of cover that up. So you've heard what we appreciate about this movie, and that's really the graphics, this world that was created, especially in 1982, is phenomenal, really.
Yes.
Some of the lines, that final speech in the rain, the themes of this movie, I think, are actually excellent and something that I would gain a lot more from watching it on a second viewing. But what are some of the things you didn't enjoy? First time around watching, I've already given you my negative spell of things. I don't know. I wasn't loving it the first time I watched it. It was one, again, I had to think about, which can be good, but can also be like, I wish I would have appreciated it more in the beginning.
Let's say this between this and Tenet, for example.
Oh, this is way better than Tenet.
This, it's kind of like
that's not comparable.
Tenet, you think about because you're like, am I an idiot? Like, so you think about it because it's like you're questioning your own intelligence because like these people are like, oh, I got it. So easy. Okay. And I'm like, but did you? Like
Tenet, I hated Tenet. You guys can watch a review. I hated Tenet. I hated with every being of my fiber. I hated that movie. It was beautifully shot. That's all I can say nice about it. But this movie
is like everything else hated.
And in fact, that movie you would probably get more in a second viewing. I have no desire. It's never happening. I had a headache when I left that movie.
That's a movie you think about it like that, but like you don't want to actually care about the movie anymore because you're like, it was so bad.
Where this movie was not that way.
It was so bad that I don't even want to give it any thought. But I'm saying this is a movie more so you want to think about.
Yeah, you think about it. And it's a
long way to get there.
And the more you think about it, you appreciate it. In fact, I heard, I'll say who it is. I watched Chris Stuckman's review on this, and I thought it was interesting that he said most of his life he didn't understand why people love this movie. And he said, like, I guess it was maybe 4 years or so ago, he watched this movie again and it just like clicked and he really appreciated it.
On his fourth viewing.
Yes, and he really loved it and understood why everyone thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I could see myself going back to this movie in several months or a year and like really, really appreciating it. And then I may have to bring it back up to you guys and tell you my second watch opinion on this movie because it feels like a movie that requires a second watch.
Or maybe your fifth watch. I mean...
Yeah. So it's kind of like upon watching it, I would give it like 1 out of 5 hoots. But after I've thought about it,
and I was going to give it a half a hoot.
It's already up to like 2.5 to possibly 3 hoots after I've thought, and this movie had to marinate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am on that. So that's just kind of our general thoughts. But I want to go ahead and bring out our guest today, which is Gary.
Far more knowledgeable than we are.
Yeah, he's far more knowledgeable.
You can't imagine how much I was losing my shit with you guys not remembering what things were called. I'm like, replicant.
Well, and so Gary, I want to ask, because we've already told them that you're a super fan, like you have a fan site and everything for
I created Blade Zone. It's the #1 Blade Runner website in the world. We've worked with Warner Brothers on doing events around it. I helped Charlie Deslarica. Gary Willoughby took it over from me in 2002. I still run the Facebook page for Blade Zone. And I just don't have time for the website. My career as an artist is too occupying. And but it's such a fun thing to do because my 2 favorite films of all time were Blade Runner #1 and #2 is The Thing. By John Carpenter.
Do you know we still have never watched The Thing? We're going to do that, I think, around like Halloween.
I know you guys are shocked.
Well, they were the first 2 R-rated films I ever saw without my dad. I just turned 18. So I'm like, I got to go to a movie without my dad. And I'm like, oh my God, And now I'm going to tell you really quick, when we went to see Blade Runner, I went with all my best friends who are still my closest friends. And we went to see it and we all saw it together expecting Indiana Jones. Yes. And then instead we got this dark, just horrifying film about a guy killing people. And I'm like, we all walked out of the theater, not talking. We're all quiet. I ran into our producer for the show, Craig Edwards, a very close friend of mine. He was coming in to see it. And I just looked at her and went, "Hey, are you wearing makeup?" And that was our only thing. It's still a joke to this day, the whole makeup thing. Because I did not know he was into goth and he was wearing makeup back in the 80s. It was 82. And we called him just drama freaks back then. But I walked out, we got in the car, none of us talked. And it was the end of school. And we spent the last week of school not talking about this movie. And I fucking hated it. Nobody else was saying anything. But I fucking hated that movie. Blade Runner was horrible to me. I'm like,
Gary,
what the hell did we just watch?
We're going to have to keep it PG-13 on this.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I hated it. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I'm ex-Army. I got a fat mouth.
Well, we know how Army mouths are.
Right.
So I went and I got the book. And I read the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And I had a better grasp on really what I was dealing with now. And so all the guys I went to see it with the previous weekend, we went to see it again the next weekend. It's like, and we all agreed, that was terrible. I didn't understand what was going on. It was so dark and mean. And then we went and saw it again and we all freaking loved it. And all of a sudden it had this like impact on me. And it became the single most powerful film of my life. It changed how I looked at cinema. And then like not long after I saw The Thing, and that also had a huge impact on me. And so if you look at everything I've worked on for comic books and stuff, you'll see something from Blade Runner or from The Thing in there. And because I always have a nod to it somewhere.
So that's interesting, Gary, because you're actually making us feel better because we were just saying how we did it. I knew it was a slow burn movie. I knew to expect that. I kind of knew all this, but I didn't enjoy it my first time watching it. But then, it's
not unheard of, and I understand it when somebody tells me I hated that movie. I'm like, I get it. I can understand why you didn't like it because I didn't like it when I first watched it. And but it when I saw it the second time, I had this different reaction to it because I expected it. Because what we were expecting was Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
What we got was this dark noir thriller. With a lot of death and violence. And I was so impassioned about it in 1995, I started the online fan club and we helped keep it interesting. I became friends with a lot of the cast and crew, including Ridley's producer, Charlie Deslarica, who is responsible for the version you watched. Okay. And they have special thank yous. If you got the special features, we're featured in the special features, Blade Zone, because we were the guys that kept it alive and helped build the fan base and a community. We had a huge community of Blade Runner fans, and they all went to bladezone.com. And we had our own forum that we would debate, is Deckard a replicant? Which I've never fallen for that crap. No. I went on Doomcock to debate him, and he wouldn't let me talk. And I'm like, I'm just going to enjoy being on Doomcock.
Okay, so you brought two things that I want to hit on. And the first one is, which is your favorite version? Because we watched the final cut, which is on HBO Max.
Right. And the final cut is in Ridley Scott's terms and Charlie's. I give Charlie a lot of credit for what he did on there. That is the definitive version that Ridley wanted, but there is still more of a version that we'll never see because he was fired. He never finished the film. He was fired 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and the narration, he didn't want narration. They did the first narration that's on the work print, which is completely different from what you see in the theatrical release. And that version is the one that Bud Yorkin and Jerry Parenchio did. And they're the Blade Runner partnership. They're the ones who own Blade Runner. And they're the ones who fired Ridley, and they hated Ridley.
So Ridley didn't finish this movie?
Ridley did not finish the film. They handled the final edit, which is why it's not a complete film. There's lip flap all over the place, 6 replicants, 4 replicants, the number changes. And the reason why is because there were problems. Now, Charlie went back and got Harrison Ford's son, Willard, to come in and do the Egyptian scene with the snake handler guy.
Okay, yeah.
When he goes in there, that was a lip flap scene where the dialogue you're hearing is not what his mouth is moving to.
Oh.
So he got Harrison Ford's son to come in there, and they digitally added his lip syncing to his dad saying those lines. So those lips are actually Harrison Ford's sons on the version you just watched. It's not Harrison Ford's mouth. That's his son, Willard.
Gotcha.
And of course, in 1995, I read a book called Future Noir by Paul M. Salmon, who wrote the definitive making of Blade Runner book. And I mean, it is the Bible of Blade Runner. And it inspired me to make the website. And the original website was a free one on Angel Fire, if you guys remember that thing in the 90s. Angel Fire was one of those free websites. So I made it. It was called Replicant City with a subsection called Blade Zone. And then in 97, when I'm like going to pay for a domain for this fan club, I'm like, wow, do I want it Replicant City or Blade? I'm like, Blade Zone seems to make more sense. And that's what I did. And it's been bladezone.com since. And it's all about everything. I mean, I've written so many articles. Gary, all of us that ran it were named Gary. I'm not kidding you.
Gary Willoughby,
Gary Carden, and then me, Gary Cassell. And it was the three Garys. And of course, we had my buddy Nathan Cheever, who's a big video game designer. And he worked on stuff. Patrick Parenteau, a French Canadian friend of mine, he was part of it. And Nathan, we were all fans and we were close friends. And we helped make this website what it was, which is articles and interviews with cast. And when the game came out, we interviewed a lot of the cast. And as we got to know these people, we're friends. It's really weird. I was friends with Rutger Hauer until he died. And I don't know if you've ever watched my memoriam video on him. I talk about some of the things that transpired between us. And he was a very funny guy, very gentle guy, a giant. He was as tall as me. And he had this really sweet heart. And you brought up the last scene where he delivers that line. I've seen things people wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in near the Tannhauser Gate. He didn't write that scene per se, but what happened was the original script that was written by David Peoples and Hampton Fancher had a really long diatribe, and it was too long, and it was going to kill the moment. And so he went into his trailer and edited it down, tweaked it down, and then added a couple of things to it that were him. And one of those in particular is the tears and rain. That's Rutger Hauer. He wrote that. That's improvised. That's his line. When I say improvised, it was made up on the set.
Yes.
Very cool.
And, cool. And that was also the last thing they shot. The movie was over and Ridley was fired immediately. I'm not kidding you. They were serious. Jerry Perincho and Bud Yorkin hated him. They wanted him off the set. There was a lot of animosity. That's why it took so long to get stuff done. I remember because we ran Blade Zone and we had this great connection with everybody at Ridley's office. We knew everybody, and it's kind of weird in my life that Ridley knows who I am. It's just weird. But there's one actor I wouldn't approach.
Everybody.
Well, there's one person I didn't want to know because I lived next 2 houses down from him for a year when I was a kid. Harrison Ford, and that guy terrified me as a kid. He had a big, thick beard when I met him, just thick. He was like a hippie, and that freaked me out. But I knew his sons and went to school with his oldest boy. I was the same age as his oldest son, Ford is one person I've never approached about doing an interview. And I talked to Gary, my partner with Blade Zone at the time, who now runs it. I said, hey, Gary, do you want to get a hold of Ford? And he goes, oh, I don't want to talk to him either. No, that guy, he's scary. I said, I know, he's terrifying. He's so cranky. And you don't know if you're going to.
Ford does seem a little intimidating.
You don't know if you're going to get. You don't know which version of him you're going to get. And I'm like, no, I don't want to talk to him. Thank you.
That's crazy that you grew up with him. Thank you, Stephen, for the $9.99 theatrical cut with Deckard's narration. It's not the fan favorite cut, but it gives a noir feel.
It's one of mine because you asked me. Yeah, okay. You asked me, and that is my personal favorite because that's the first one I saw.
Well, I've seen a lot of people. Several people have told me that they enjoy the narration, so it seems to go both ways. But I also want to ask you because there is this huge debate. And see, this is one of the things, and I'll have to ask this question multiple ways. one, we'll get into the deeper thing of why you don't think Deckard is a replicant. But secondly, did you even pick up on that was even something in people's minds, your first viewing?
I thought it was.
Like, when did you get that?
I did.
The first time somebody said that to me, I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. I just looked at him like, where did you get that from?
So, like, had that person, like, was it a theory going around? Like, what was the deal?
It was early on that started, because like some of the earliest debates I got into were on a bulletin board. You know, I don't know if people remember those things. You get on bulletin boards online, and there was a Blade Runner bulletin board, and we'd get on there. That's how I met Charlie Deslarica, Ridley's producer, because he's like, I like the way you think, Gary. And I said, I like the way you think, guy that I don't know. And he goes, I'll talk privately. And he told me, I'm Charlie Deslarica. I'm Ridley Scott's producer. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, sorry.
We're gonna have a beep for him.
I'm so bad. I will never do this again. I'm sorry. I'm so now I'm self-conscious. Oh my god.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
It's fine.
But Charlie's like that, and I didn't believe him at first. I was like, "Yo, you're lying." And then I found out, no, he really is. And I'm like, oh wow. So we've been friends since what was it, 97? I think 97. And I love the guy. But there were so many debates about Deckard being a replicant, and my answer. And Doomcock didn't want to listen to me. He won't listen to anybody that says something he doesn't like. And I love him. I love Doomcock. But that's just the way he is. He's not going to listen to somebody that's going to say something he doesn't agree with. And it doesn't matter if it's a logical and truthful and honest response, which is, first of all, if it's not in the script, it's not in the movie. That's a first rule. Now, this does get changed the minute you have an improvised line that's on the set. Yes, that is accepted. But when it comes down to something like that, if it's a plot point that is not in the script, it's not in the movie. And it was not in this final script, the shooting script. This is something Ridley had in his head. And the other problem is it completely makes the story pointless if he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it does to me too.
It changes his entire arc as a character into being nothing.
It does.
Yeah, true.
And character arcs are essential. And this comes into my greatest criticism of Ridley, why I've also never interviewed Ridley, because I will criticize him if I talk to him, which is Ridley is not the best director in his family. His brother, Tony, God rest his soul, was. Ridley understands cinematography. He's the single best cinematographer I have ever seen. I've never seen a cinematographer as good as him. His visuals in his films are so good because of what his skills are as a cinematographer. And but his direction, if he doesn't have a solid script to work with, his films suck. And that is why his films suck, because he's not a visual storyteller like his brother Tony was.
Yeah.
And oh boy, I've gotten a lot of flack over this. Let me tell you, flack from all sides of the fandom.
I would say he has a pretty big following, Ripley Scott.
Well, I do too. I'm a big fan of his. In fact, my top five movies are either John Carpenter or Ridley Scott. That's it. Very top five. Alien is in there.
Which Rick mentioned.
The Duelists.
Thank you, Rick.
The Duelist is one of the best films ever made by Ridley Scott. It's his first movie.
If you've never
seen it, you've got to watch it. He made a movie that looked like it was shot by Stanley Kubrick, but actually was better than Stanley Kubrick, in my opinion. And because it's just a really great story. It's got Harvey Keitel and not David, but the good-looking Carradine brother, with blonde hair. I can't think of his name.
Well, and what I want to get into, because my mind's back on that, is it's like, so I guess because what you were saying this too, it's like Ripley Scott claims that Deckard is a replicant, and Harrison Ford was like, no, he's not a replicant.
No, he's not. And Hampton Fancher said, no, he's not.
And explain what you mean that like it would change his arc. Like, in what way do you think it changes his arc if his character is a replicant?
The importance of his relationship with the replicants themselves, why Roy Batty saves him, and his falling in love with one of these things that he was trained to kill. ceases to be important.
Yeah.
If he's one of them.
Yeah.
Right.
And it just makes zero sense. Script
Yeah.
Doctor is even better at breaking this down because Script Doctor and I talk about this stuff all the time. He is so more in tune because he's, well, a full-time writer. I'm a good writer. I'm not a great writer. I'm a good writer. He's Script Doctor is a great writer. And so, but anyway, so what you've got is this attempt to basically circumvent basically the telling of a story between this guy that's a human and his relationship with those that he's supposed to kill, his hatred of killing them.
Yeah.
And how he eventually is taken over to their side because of that.
Right.
And I love that. And I also like that that he is so bad at his job that the only replicants that he kills is women. He could not kill the male replicants. They beat the shit out of him. These were Nexus 6s. And somebody says, you know, he's a replicant. I said, if he was a replicant, why would they make him weaker than the things he's hunting? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
That is true.
Yeah.
And I said, the first time somebody said that to me, I said, that's just dumb. Why would you think that?
And he only, okay, well, the woman he does have to fight, the one at the end.
Zora.
Yes.
Oh, Pris. Pris that he shoots, right?
Yes. But the one that's running is running. So it's kind of like she's running away. So it
I'm
wasn't
friends
like
with
a hard
her.
kill.
Yeah, I'm friends with her in real life too. She's really a nice person. But yeah, Daryl, that one she's trying to get away. She just wants to live.
Yeah.
She's had her belly full of killing because she was an assassin. That's what she did. Whereas Pris was a pleasure model. So this is all new to her. She's like, oh, I get to kill a human. All right. You know, and so she's going to gymnastic him to death, you know, with Jim Cotta, another 80s classic. You know, but, you know, she is kicking his butt. He's absolutely getting hammered by Pris. Yeah. And then he gets lucky, rolls over his gun and shoots her.
Yeah, that's a brutal death. She's like shaking and it's
yeah, it's like all that wound up energy in the Nexus 6 caused all that crazy spasms, you know, and then of course Roy Batty, her boyfriend, gets home and he's like, oh man, you killed the woman I love. I gotta kill you now. But then at the last second, as he's dying, he realizes he wants somebody to remember him.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. He's like, I want to be remembered.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was pity. I think it was just, I need someone to remember me and I'm going to let you live for that reason, you know? Yeah. And of course, and that makes that soliloquy that he delivers at the end so much more powerful.
Yeah, it does. Well, and too, okay, because people have told me, because we did a first watch of Alien like months ago. And people, as soon as we did that, they told me that Ridley Scott claims that Alien is within the same world as Blade Runner.
Well, with Prometheus, it supposedly is because in some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that they offered up, Tyrell Corporation is mentioned, or Tyrell himself is mentioned, not the corporation.
Okay, well, and that's what I was going to say. So then would there be a connection between the bots in Alien, supposedly,
well,
and
there's also a possibly like there is that Ridley wants that. He would like that all of it's a universe because everybody's into this world building now.
Yes.
And of course there is a sidequel, not a sequel, but a sidequel to Blade Runner called Soldier with Kurt Russell, which David Webb Peoples, who co-wrote Blade Runner, wrote the script for. He also wrote Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood. Great writer. And Peoples wrote Soldier. And Soldier, he calls it a sidequel. That was his own word, sidequel to Blade Runner, because there is a spinner in there. And he believes that what Kurt Russell's character was the phase that led to replicants coming into existence. And the character that Jason Scott Lee played was the first phase of replicants. The first version of replicants. And I do consider it a sidequel. I think it's completely related. And also there is a spinner in the trash yard as he walks into there where these people are living. There's a spinner there right next to an old parking meter.
Well, And two, I was going to ask because we've just seen that one version, and I was told that I heard that in the theatrical release, there's like a more definitive, like happy ending for him and Rachel. So what is like the actual?
The
what's
theatrical
actual
release
ending
had a
to?
reshot. It was reshot, not directed by Ridley, ending that had him in the spinner with her. And they're going off and he delivers the line, I don't know how, she was special, possibly no death at all. We don't know how long we've got together, but then again, who does? And that's the last line of his narration. And they write off using Stanley Kubrick's unused footage from The Shining, aerial photography. And that's how the movie ended. It ends on this like theme and with the sky and then slowly fade to black.
Do you prefer the happier ending or the ending we watched?
I actually look. I like all of them. I even enjoy the work print. But the fact is if you ask my preference of which one had the impact on me is Blade Runner 1982. That's the version that hit me. But I love the definitive cut, the final cut that Charlie and Ridley put together. I like that Charlie took the time to fix the effects and fix some of the lip flap that happened. And it worked out perfectly. It's a beautiful, beautiful cut.
Gotcha.
The one you watched.
Yes. And not that we've not watched it yet, so no spoilers on this as far as for us. But did you like the new one, like the sequel they did years later? Is it 2049 or?
It's such a divide in the Blade Runner community, and Gary Willoughby and I, we don't even completely agree on it. To be honest with you, I enjoyed it, but I don't. I didn't like it as much, and I made it clear when I said, "Look, I enjoyed the film. It's better written. It got a better script. It's a better story because of it. There's an actual arc to this story that takes place, a real one, and but at the same time, it didn't catch my eye the way the first Blade Runner did it. And I said, this film, as nice as it is, as good as it is, it will never have the mileage that Blade Runner 82 had. Because
it's not going to.
It's not going to inspire people to become filmmakers the way the first film did. It's not going to, because Blade Runner from 1982 is listed by the American Film Institute and the British Film Institute as the single most influential film of the 20th century.
Oh, wow.
I can see that. Well, something you said that actually it's like it was like a light bulb went off for me. You said about it not like it having more of an actual arc. I haven't thought of it that way, but that was something that you felt like kind of when we were watching it's just kind of like events that happen, and it doesn't feel like a structured movie the way most movies are structured.
It's sort of like when Homer Simpson said, there's nothing important here. It's just a bunch of crap that happened. And
it feels like a bunch of random crap that's happening.
It's just like
exactly
it starts and stuff happens and then it ends.
Yes.
And that's because once again, it got gutted. Blade Runner was gutted. There were scenes like with Mary that one scene was shot with her. It was played by, crud. I forget her name. She's married to Barry Bostwick, the actor that was the governor in the show with Michael J. Fox when he worked for the governor. And Barry Bostwick's wife was Mary, one of the replicants, and she ends up dying in a closet. Deckard doesn't have to kill her. He finds her dying. And they shot part
out on the picture. Or like, he keeps closing up on that picture.
Is that what you're talking about?
What are we talking? Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No, that's different.
What is the picture that he finds?
Because originally there were 6 escapees.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, and 3 men and 3 women, and one of them got electrocuted on a fence outside the Tyrell Corporation, and then Mary is found later. Deckard figures out where she's at, finds her, and she's in a closet hiding, and she just dies. And it happens. It's one of those sad moments in the story, but because he didn't finish shooting her scenes, because he got fired, it got cut out. And that's why there was such a lip flap on the number of replicants. And it had to be fixed in the version that you're going to watch. Charlie fixed that with Ridley, and the number of replicants. It's all fixed. It's repaired. It's no weird number changes going on. And but that was some of the stuff that was shot. There was more shot with Leon at his apartment, and that wasn't done. You can actually see somebody tried to replicate it. Yeah, replicate it in the White Dragon cut. You can find, I think it's on YouTube, a free version.
There's a White Dragon cut.
It's a fan cut. There are fan edits of everything, and there have been fan edits of Blade Runner going back years. And one of the cuts is the fan cut, which it intercuts some of the footage that was shot of Leon in the apartment that took place, and then the scene that was supposed to happen. And when Deckard and Gaff go into the apartment, when Deckard goes into the bathroom, the camera was supposed to pan upward. And while he's in the bathroom, Leon was holding on to the walls like a spider above him in the darkness. And so they did their own fan edit version that shows it. It looks really crappy. The effects are about as good as the lines around my head right now. And just really badly done. And but it was inspired that somebody thought to do that. And so I love the White Dragon cut for that reason. But yeah, there are a lot of fan cuts.
Can you explain to me, what is Deckard looking at in that picture where he's like, zoom in?
It's
okay. The machine that he's using, the Esper, it's called the Esper because it's extrasensory, ESP. It's an ESPer. And it can read information about a room, light, and allow you to look around corners that you actually can't see in the photograph, and allowed him to manipulate the picture enough to where he could see her.
Okay.
Because all the light that's reflecting off of her is hitting other things, and this device is able to read that. And that was one of the cool things about the Esper. It's also one of the things that's been borrowed by a lot of movies, including Super Troopers, Enhance.
Honestly, that is a cool concept.
It is cool. Thank you, Stephen, for the 1999 super chat. Ridley Scott says that Deckard is a replicant. That's why he did the whole unicorn dream. And I heard
it's like, look, whether he did it for that reason or not, that's not why it was in the script. And what a unicorn is a symbol. It has, it's in our language, calling somebody a unicorn for a reason.
Yeah.
Feige, Kevin Feige is referred to as a unicorn. Is he a real unicorn? No.
He's a replicant.
He's not a replicant either. So, the people that make the argument, I just kind of go, you're still not understanding metaphor. And maybe Ridley didn't understand the metaphor that Hampton Fancher and David Peoples put in there. That the unicorn was a symbol, that she's the unicorn. Rachel is the unicorn.
That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
She's the unicorn. And it bugs me when people don't get that. Instead, they have to think literally. Everything's got to be literal. You can't speak metaphor, and so. And that's where all this crap comes from. And I don't buy it 1 second, and because I understand story and story structure, and I understand metaphor. And that's why Hampton Fancher and David Webb Peoples put it in there. That's why it was in there. Ridley got this idea, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work on any level of storytelling. It doesn't work. And people keep arguing. I go, it doesn't work. And it makes no sense. Why would Roy Batty save him?
Yeah.
There's no point to it. He wants a human to remember him.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what Steven's saying too, that he thinks that it adds more meaning when he's human. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
I think that's true.
Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, from the little bit of
I will.
do it. You have my permission. But from the little bit of YouTube research I did about this movie being talked about, it sounds like Ridley Scott just kind of like one day was like, he's a replicant.
Well, that's what happened. It really did happen. Yeah. He just came in and he goes, you know what?
Harrison Ford was like, what?
And Harrison Ford had that reaction because they were best of friends until that whole replicant thing started, and they started arguing. And Harrison was getting irritated over it. Stop it. It makes no sense. They
understand each other at times, or that's what they said, that they kind of, it's a volatile relationship.
And it led to why Ridley didn't direct this one, if you didn't know that. They'll glass it over. The argument started again. It started again. And Harrison Ford refused to do that. He didn't want to do that. No.
Does the new movie answer the question? Because he's alive all those years later.
It does. It answers it. He's alive. He didn't die. 1, 2. He infers it. And he knows, he would know who he is. Okay. And I liked the way that he answered without answering in the movie. He answered without answering.
Yes, yeah.
So your answer is not an answer.
Then why are people still having this debate that he's
It's always going to be there. There's always going to be that crowd that thinks literally instead of figuratively.
Yes, because, and I understand, especially when you have Ridley Scott saying that, like why they would think that, but I never would have thought that just watching the movie for myself. Never. Yeah, never crossed my mind last night at all.
Right. Not even a little bit.
No, not a little bit.
And I love Kay's character in the new film. I thought that was a really fleshed out character.
That's Ryan Gosling, right?
Yeah, Ryan Gosling is he's a tragic character. And my heart broke, and everybody, do you think he's loving him? No, he's dead. And everything that he thought wasn't what happened. And it breaks your heart for him. But you're left with this happy thing that because of him, Deckard found his daughter that was half human, half replicant. And that, by the way, was another thing that gave you the answer that he's not replicant.
Yeah.
Because she was half human, because that was the whole point of her being important.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah. And thank you, Rick, for the $10 super chat. Funny thing, I remember there was a fashion trend of clear plastic stuff for women, not clothing, in 1983, purses in particular. Tell me it was not from the movie. Yes. The first one he died, or that he killed.
Zora.
Yes.
Very cool. I like your eye for fashion.
Yes. That. Yeah, definitely. 2000 Salacious Rob confirms he's a replicant.
Then you obviously don't understand that movie at all.
It really sounds like he's not a replicant.
Okay, and I want to say I see
he's too curmudgeonly to be a replicant.
And then somebody else was saying they don't agree with anything being said. So just for, conversation's sake, let us know in the comments what it is you disagree with.
Oh, okay. So Josh, are you one that thinks he's a replicant? Do we have this going on? Yeah, again, I never would have thought that he's a replicant. He seems like a human throughout the movie. It just kind of seems like a clear-cut case to me, but then it's like they make you question things so much. It was kind of like the joke.
The only thing I ever questioned was the bureaucracy that he was being forced to go to work for.
Oh,
and how they were kind of bad guys. I mean, he points out that Bryant is the kind of cop that was racist back in the old days, and it would have been the 60s. Well, it would have been a racist cop.
Can you explain to me? It's like, since they know the replicants are going to die at the 4-year mark, why did they need to be hunted down and killed?
Just let nature part of the plot that you just kind of have to ignore. It's like,
okay, I mean, honesty's good.
The 4-year lifespan thing was something that I'm like, that's kind of cool, but at the same time, then why are they such a threat?
Sucks.
Especially with people going off world, they're leaving the planet, and population is low, and everybody's moving upward instead of outward. That's why that's why the city was retrofitted, as it's referred to by Sid Mead. The city was retrofitted, so buildings were being built on top of other buildings.
Basically, when I watched this movie, I had the thought, since it's Los Angeles 2019, I had the thought that Sarah Connor apparently was not successful in stopping Skynet.
Yeah, definitely not the same universe. In the Blade Runner community, the things that was popping up a lot, it's like, where's my flying cars?
Exactly.
2019, where's my cars that fly?
Listen.
And I told people, oh, what?
We actually had a full discussion about the flying cars.
We were like, hold on, pause it just one more minute. I have one more thing to say.
Because we were like, people always think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
But in reality, there would just be more crashes in the sky.
The only people that would have flying cars would be the extremely wealthy,
Yes.
the police,
Yes.
and the military. Nobody would else be flying cars because it's just instant death.
It would be.
Nobody would survive a car crash.
Right.
Nobody.
That's what I said.
Because it would hit.
Oh, it's a
and then,
fender
like,
bender up here, but we've got 8 stories to fall.
Right, exactly. It's like that's not going to work well.
You know, somebody has a stroke and just starts just plowing through buildings. It's just
take out 2 others on the way down.
I mean, back in the 80s, because I wrote some articles. If you go to bladezone.com, you can read some of the because I wrote articles on AI as well as smart technology because science is my field as well as writing and doing comic books. And I work in the film industry too because I do storyboards and movie posters. And so basically, you'll find articles on there that I wrote that are about smart technology, how it was used within the film. There are things in there people didn't even notice until we started writing articles about it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I said, when you see the cop walk up to the car at the beginning, right when they find Deckard, and you see the one uniformed officer walk over and he touches the vehicle, I said that was a smart car. He was telling the car to open that door.
Okay. Well, so
he didn't hit a switch. He just touched the car and probably said something, and the car opened up. We couldn't hear him because of all the street noise. There's so much smart technology they put in that film that was predicted that we have today, except for the flying cars. I said, but we do have the Moller car. It's Moller with I think the umlauts over the E, and basically it's a plane. It's a plane. It's a push prop that you can fold up the wings on it and drive on a street.
Oh, wow.
And it's called the Moller car, and it's a flying car, but the thing is so expensive that it's never hit the market.
Yeah.
I bet.
And let's see, Stephen, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Blade Runner's also a huge influence on all Japanese anime from the 80s to present day.
Exactly. Yeah. There is this cross influence with Blade Runner. Blade Runner had an impact on Japanese anime, but Ridley himself was very impacted by the Japanese culture, which is why there's so much Asian culture in the film, including the image behind me there of the Japanese. That one's, I think, a candy one. But there's also a cigarette ad where she's smoking a kabuki, or what do they call those? Geisha woman.
Even Harrison Ford, I believe, is kind of eating Japanese food when they find
That's
him.
Chinese. He's eating Chinese. Okay. He's eating Chinese food. He asked for sushi. Four sushi. He goes, no, two. He goes, no, 224.
Right.
One of my favorite arguments in the film.
And as we're kind of closing up, last thing I thought, do you think, especially with Harrison Ford being, he saw it kind of reminded me of Coruscant in the prequels. Do you think that this movie influenced George Lucas as far as
look, Ridley liked Blade Runner. George liked Blade Runner. And he had his guys put stuff from some of his favorite films into the prequel series. When they're on Coruscant, there is a spinner that flies by.
Is there?
In one of the scenes. Yeah, they put a spinner in there. And when in the first film, Phantom Menace, when they are at the junkyard, Watto's junkyard, there is a 2001 space pod.
Okay.
Sitting there with its arms up. Yeah, it's in there, and it's right in your face. You can't miss it. And I cracked up when I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, it's a pod from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Whoa! Now we know where Dave Bowman went. He went to Tatooine.
That's pretty fun because this is our first time watching that, and that was one of my thoughts, like, oh, this is kind of like Coruscant in the prequels. And another thing that shows, I think, George's being influenced by this. Did you ever see there was I think it was maybe George was going to sell it to HBO. It's supposed to be like the underground world, and it looked just
it was a
like
series.
This.
We still could see it. We still could see it if things get changed the way, crossing my fingers, we're going to get. We could still see that show. I thought it was a good idea, and I saw the semi test pilot that they did.
And it looked like Blade Runner.
Yeah, it's very influenced. In fact, when they're down on the streets, that was absolutely inspired by Blade Runner. George Lucas admits to it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, that's kind of it, guys, as far as our discussion. Our first one. Oh, you got for Gary?
Yes.
What?
Do you think this movie I know it was sci-fi, but do you think that it was like supposed to have like little horror elements to it with like I don't know why.
He put things in there that are very creepy. When I saw it, like I said, I was 18.
Or maybe just more so disturbing, more so.
When it cuts to the eggs in particular boiling, that is something that really, it fills you with dread. He uses a lot of auditory sounds, and some of it was Vangelis and some of it was stuff that was done in post. And so it has these creepy elements to it. Yes, definitely. I think that there's a part of it that's horrifying.
At moments it's like, oh, I'm kind of
like when Deckard shows up at the apartment. That's a scary scene.
Yes. And well, that whole end scene, from her shaking on the ground when he shoots her to that guy putting his head through like
when she's
the
hiding
wall
with the other weird.
And that was cut up. That was cut up because of Parenchio and Bud Yorkin, the way it was, and I think it works. But originally there was because if you'll notice, like when he puts the nail in his hand.
Yes.
He's in the same bathroom that Deckard is in. It actually took place afterward. It's the same bathroom. And it's also, he's got the injury already that Deckard gave him when he hit him with the pipe. And it was cut together that way. And that took place after the head scene. And I love the head scene. I laughed when I saw that. Because
I think we laughed too. Did we not?
That's pure Rutger Hauer being awesome.
Wait a minute. Which head scene was it?
Where he pushes his head through the bathroom wall.
His head through the bathroom wall. Yeah.
He's like, you better pick it up.
That guy, and he kind of portrayed like a crazy demon for like
about very
playful. Definitely.
He was scary because he was playful.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was playful, and I'm going to kill you. If I touch you, I will kill you. But I'm going to have some fun. And
like the hunter was being hunted by.
Yes, definitely.
And the whole singing while he's hunting him was just so disturbing.
It was. Back to that stuff, yeah.
And thank you, Rick, for the $5. Jack Nicholson said, "You can't handle flying cars. It's tough to be a pilot. AI isn't there to do it for you yet."
Right. And we know how Harrison Ford has crashed like 4 times.
He has.
At some point, they're going to the FAA's got to take his license away.
They really need to.
He can't crash that many times and go. It's not something that happened to plane. There's some pilot error going on here, and we need to maybe ground him. Because I love Harrison Ford. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his.
Even though he still scares you.
Yeah. Well, I remember his wife. I don't remember her name, but when I was a kid, I lived in San Fernando, and for like almost a year, and I went over with Willard, and we were playing in the lawn because they had those pop-up sprinklers. The sprinklers were going off, and all of a sudden, his wife like stuck her head out a window and just started screaming. And I'm just like, I gotta go home. I was like terrified of his wife too. Like, I'm gonna go home.
The whole family
yelling at me for playing in the lawn. I'm like, what are sprinklers for? For kids to play in, you know? Seriously. I had no idea how important it was to a lawn.
Well, is that your last question?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that last, again, guys, this was, and now I feel better that even Gary, the person who started the biggest fan site there is, that even you didn't know what you thought about this movie when you left watching
I was not happy with it. And the funny part is when we went back to see it the next time, we were like a bunch of 16-year-old girls on prom night. We couldn't shut up. We just in that car driving home going, oh my God, I got it now. Oh my God, it's brilliant.
Well, that's awesome. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Because this is a movie. It's almost like you need someone who has some of the answers for you.
Knowledge and background information.
Well, that's why I said if you guys are going to talk Blade Runner, you should probably have me on. But I've got a lot of Blade Runner friends, and
sounds like it.
And I've thought about doing just a show about Blade Runner. I've tried to do it with Keith, but it's not quite because he's not as knowledgeable about it as I am. So I like getting other people in. I'd invite Doomcock, but I don't think Doomcock would, because when it's on my show, I'll get him to stop talking.
Well, I want to get you to get Doomcock on your show so you guys can have another round 2 of the debate.
I don't think it'll happen because, he just doesn't want to hear it. And I understand that people who think that don't want to hear it. And so you can't really talk to him. And it's better I just let it lie. Let sleeping dogs lie.
Well, everyone in the chat, you heard it from Gary.
That's me.
Even though Josh and Salacious, we got the replicate crowd in the chat. Yeah. So
Josh, hail Doomcock. I love that guy.
Yeah,
I love Doomcock.
We'll see how much longer in time. This may be the endless debate of what.
Well, you ladies should probably host a Blade Runner chat.
We should.
You should host an entire episode. I'll see if I can find some of my Blade Runner friends that'll join. Gary from Blade Zone won't come. He's like, I don't want to do that. No, that's for young people. I'm in my 70s. I'm not interested in getting on the interwebs.
Well, thank you so much, Gary, and tell everyone, just in case they don't know, because you do a show every week. And you have some interesting guests on. In fact,
we do three shows a week. I do. I was doing Yetis, but he's taking a break right now. But Fat Steven Seagal and I do a show together on Wednesdays, and then we do TG Off on Fridays.
Yes, and I've been on a couple times.
And it's I wish you girls would come on more. I get so tired of the sausage party. It's just like, God, it's the same thing every week. But we get a lot of guests on there. On June 4th, we're going to have Graham Nolan and Chuck Dixon.
Oh, cool.
I'm taking advantage of all my friends that I work with and have known, because my first comic book gig was with Chuck Dixon. And I told him, I said, hey, what's the point of being friends with you? I can't get you on my damn show.
When are you going to get Harrison Ford on the show?
Never. I will never do anything with him. That guy's still scared. I'm 57. I'm still terrified of Harrison Ford.
Well, yes. So, definitely check out Gary's channel. But
Pop Culture Minefield.
Yes. And thank you so much for coming on and filling in some of these questions that we had after just watching it one time.
No problem. And please do not listen to people in the chat. Decide for yourself. Don't even listen to me. Just use logic.
I think my heart knows the truth.
Well, thank you everyone in the chat for tuning in to our first watch discussion of Blade Runner. We had fun discussing this. It was definitely the most interesting, I think, as far as the
movie I've seen in a while.
As far as we didn't know what to think about it, and then we did think about it, and so it's an interesting movie. But that's kind of it for today's show, everyone. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to be a force of light. All right, bye, guys.
Bye, guys.